Hello, everyone, and welcome to EDA Conference Session D2, Small Business in Your Rural Community, How to Keep Them Growing and Thriving, something that's important to all of us. My name is Martin Abel. I'm the Economic Development Officer for Lethbridge County, and also a member of the EDA board serving as Secretary-Treasurer for the organization. I'd also like to thank at this point Western Economic Diversification Canada as the session sponsor. Western Economic Diversification is something that many of us are very familiar with, providing support and structure for many projects that we have going on in our communities and many initiatives across Western Canada. It's my pleasure to invite Justin Reamer to provide a few opening remarks and introduce our panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. As we've all experienced, 2020 has presented us with all kinds of challenges, and virtual gatherings like these are tremendously important in helping us connect, network, and learn from one another. I want to take a moment to outline the work of my department, Western Economic Diversification Canada, or WD, as we're otherwise known. We're a federal department serving Alberta communities, both large and small, and the important characteristic for this federal department is that WD and its deputy minister are uniquely headquartered right here in Alberta, in Edmonton. While many industry stakeholders in Alberta know about our support for catalyst projects in the area of innovation, technology commercialization, and business development, what's perhaps less well known is our work that happens in communities of all sizes. For example, WD has a rich history in supporting small and rural communities, and we take pride in the success stories that have resulted from this work. A recent success that comes to mind includes Sonar Software in the hamlet of DeBolt in northern Alberta. In 2019, WD provided a repayable investment to commercialize their next generation of billing software for internet service providers. Sonar's business has been growing since the start of the pandemic, as demand for internet has become paramount. Sonar was recently ranked number 11 on the 2019 startup ranking of Canada's top new growth companies in Maclean's magazine. Sonar indicated to me that without WD funding, they would likely have moved to the United States, where venture capital was easier to obtain. And in Lethbridge, Flexahopper Plastics is another innovative family-owned business that's been operating for over 50 years. WD provided funding to improve their production processes, operational efficiency, and enable them to pursue interesting new products. Our three-year project with Flexahopper is creating new jobs while generating additional sales, revenues, and exports. Rural small businesses need our support to thrive, and today's session focuses on just that. So I'm pleased to introduce today's panelists, all of whom have some great insights into this important topic. I'm especially proud of the three panelists as they are from BusinessLink, which is a service organization that forms the backbone of WD's Western Canada Business Service Network. The BusinessLink gives entrepreneurs the tools to make their business ideas a reality, and connects them with the most relevant resources to help bring those ideas to life. They have been very busy during the COVID period, as many people are investigating the potential of starting new businesses. As CEO of BusinessLink, Barbara McKenzie brings over 30 years of experience as an entrepreneur, an innovator, and a leader. And I've sincerely enjoyed working with Barbara in this role. She is a real leader and partner. At the BusinessLink, she leads a team of professionals who provide client service excellence and support to Alberta entrepreneurs. Yoyan Famalusi is the team lead for business facilitation at the BusinessLink and is a business development professional with over 16 years of experience. An entrepreneur herself, she thoroughly enjoys sharing her experience through facilitation and watching the eyes light up when new knowledge hits home. And finally, Matt Hill. Matt is the business facilitator at the BusinessLink, covering Lethbridge and the communities in southern Alberta. Based in Brooks, Matt has leaped into entrepreneurship himself. He is passionate about helping entrepreneurs start small and enabling them to scale their ideas in their business operations. So with that, I'll now pass it over to Martin for this exciting discussion.
All right. Well, thanks, Justin, so much for the introduction, and thanks to everybody for joining us today to talk about rural small business and the entrepreneurs and the challenges they face in accessing support services. and how Business Link can help you and your small communities. So I know that you know about Business Link, and I know that you just heard about us, but what you don't know about the four of us is that all of us have worked in small communities. So I was born and raised in Spruce Grove back in the 70s when it was actually a small community. And for 5.5 years, I worked with a lot of small communities when I worked with the Leduc-Nisku Economic Development Association. Maureen spent 18 years in Vegreville and is a rural resident raising a family. She spent 11 years working with the business community and economic development, and the last couple of years she's been directly supporting rural startups and small businesses in Red Deer. So Matt lives in Brooks, but he's originally from England, so you'll hear an accent, but he grew up in a rural small business, and his family's hotel business was in a village with just 500 people. So he came to Canada to his wife's small hometown of Brooks, and he's been working with Community Futures and Business Link to help support small businesses. And finally, we have Yoyan. And Yoyan, though she lives in Calgary, she's done a ton of work in Southern Alberta with communities like Old, Airdrie, and Okotoks. So we really do have some sense of what some of the challenges are. So I'm going to ask Maureen, given her experience as an EDO and with economic development, what challenges are those rural EDOs facing when they're trying to support their businesses?
Thanks, Barbara. I definitely have a few thoughts on what did and what can make supporting businesses so challenging. First of all, EDOs always have very full plates and wear many hats. Capacity is limited, small teams, large portfolios. Often it's one person handling everything that falls into that economic development bucket. Sometimes it's the CAO or the mayor taking on that role along with everything else that they have to do. There's always more priorities identified than there is time. So often direct support of small, new and home-based businesses ends up quite a ways down the list. Often in rural areas, particularly, resources can be fewer and they're farther away, which means that access is a lot more limited than what's available for the large cities. Rural businesses' needs are not always the same as those in large centers. That knowing where and when to send businesses for supports can be confusing for municipalities as well as for the businesses. Programs change often. It's hard to keep up with who does what and where when you're not dealing with it on a daily basis like we do. And lastly, added to the challenge for EDOs is that the needs of small business is so varied. It's sometimes hard to know how to help those specific businesses in their specific needs. It can become really difficult to deal with every single inquiry. EDOs are amazing in all that they do, but they still don't have the ability to be experts in everything for anyone. So sometimes I think they need some help too.
And that's very true. Having been in that rural environment and worked with a lot of people, they work so hard, but they wear so many hats and it's so challenging. So given that you're the newest team member to Business Link, having been with us just since September, what do you see as the consistent challenges faced by rural entrepreneurs?
So I think number one is that businesses as a whole, they're so busy working in their business that I think they struggle sometimes to find the time to search for the supports and resources to work on their businesses at all stage of business, and maybe more so for the startups. They may know they need help, but they don't know how to find it. And again, access to resources and sometimes technology can be really limited in the more rural areas. Often they don't know where to even start to find those supports, or if they do, they find so many because there's so many things out there that they get overwhelmed just trying to sift through what they do find. I know often a business will contact me, and I know, Matt and Ian as well, with what they think is one simple question. And they end up with several more, and the more we talk, the more questions. And at the end, they realize they needed way more help than they thought. That being said, I'd say there's 3 or 4 top areas where businesses really need some help, and especially now. The first one I'd say is how to keep up in the digital world. There's so much to think about: social media marketing, SEO optimization, website development. and even how to transition or expand to selling online. A lot of rural businesses never really worried about that online presence, and they're really realizing now that they need to start to think about it. The second piece, I think, is planning, and all of those pieces that lead up to creating a good business plan. Research, determining a structure, growth strategy, everything from marketing to sales, customer retention, all the way up to, can they export? Do they need to pivot? It's a lot to think about. The third one is financing, and it's always among the top questions that we get. Determining what their actual financial needs are and possible solutions. These conversations usually start with the question, are there any grants available for me? But of course, it goes way beyond that. And lastly, I think particularly now with COVID, the business communities are feeling so isolated, more so than ever. It's harder to network with peers, and again, in the rural areas, that becomes even harder. I would say that overall, I'm seeing most businesses just need a little extra hand holding to get to the next phase or to get their businesses off the ground.
Yeah, that's pretty insightful, Maureen. And I think, I think COVID has really exacerbated a lot of the challenges, and we've seen this pivot to technology isn't made for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, sorry, Barbara, to interrupt there, but yeah, I wouldn't mind just sort of weighing in on that, of how EDOs and economic development teams support their entrepreneurs. I was lucky that in my previous position with Community Futures, I was actually like co-located in the City of Brooks economic development department, but my desk was where they do the business licenses and permits. And the amount of time that people came to the desk for like a very routine request of, they're moving into a new building and they need a development permit. And it was great to be able to be that point of information for people for such, a wider set of business supports that are available, and that was just luck that I sort of positioned there. But we saw quite often like rural EDOs desperate to support and help their local small business community, but don't have the time or the access to the knowledge, to the tools, to the connections to really make the difference that they want to make. So, I mean, it was a fortunate position I was in to be able to do that. But I mean, the word I would share is that economic development officers really, it works well when they get into the habit of using us, of sharing that card, of having that at the development officer of, well, this might be the extra support you need. That's what I saw.
And that's really key, right? I mean, we can't be everywhere all the time. So, and what are those resources out there that people can access? So, I mean, we know what the challenges are. We know how hard it can be. So I'm going to kind of ask Yoyan a little bit, right? How can Business Link actually help these EDOs supporting their local entrepreneurs and those local small businesses? What are those things that we can actually do to get them the support that they need?
Yeah, and I was actually going to say, in addition to what Maureen said, that yes, I know that COVID it's been a crazy year. We can all identify with that. But I also think more than ever before, this has just opened up the world. Like, it's made the world more accessible, because we've all had to learn new behaviors of working online and virtual and Zoom, like we're all zoomed out, and we're all connecting more digitally. And I think that just opens up our world generally, especially around the rural. And the way we can support EDOs and the smaller communities is that we are here for you. Like, we are your supports. Use us, like Matt said. Use all the services we have. And when people think of Business Link, they often think of our support services for just startups. But we have always provided support to those that are currently running businesses and those that want to grow as well, or even in some cases succession or closure, right? And a lot of the businesses we have in our smaller communities are in that running, growing, or succession phase. So we've seen that, and we've seen this support for the running and the growing phase more so during COVID, right? A lot of businesses are struggling. Sometimes people stumble onto business, and I, Matt and I have had this discussion a lot of times. That's a lot of the businesses that we see that have struggled the most during COVID are businesses that were struggling before, but COVID just brought it all up to the surface, and that's where we come in, and we support everybody. Like we are one province wide, and we support everybody, every industry, like every demographic. We're not restricted to just, the city or rural or women or men or immigrants or indigenous or a particular locale. We are province wide, and we're here to support you. And I'll share a list of, our support services shortly. But I think what makes us most suited to support, especially EDOs, is that we provide customized service. So we're not cookie cutter in any way. And we never assume that we know what the problems are within your local community. You are the subject matter on that. So where we come into place to say, hey, what's going on in your community? What help do you need? And then we provide that customized support to you, and not just to you, but also to the businesses in your community. And I think another thing that makes us stand out is that we get it. Like Barbara said, we get small business, we get the rural community, and so we understand that we have a deep understanding of what works and what doesn't work. We're not heroes in capes swooping in to save you. We're here to support where you need that support. So we never assume that we know, and we're just we're here to help you. And I always say that one of the core of what we do is that one-on-one business advisory. Like it's coming to you where you're at, and it's omni-channel, right? So it could be on the phone, it could be in person, it could be now on Zoom virtually, it could be via email, it could be live chat. So we have many channels through which you can connect with us. And one of the questions we ask is, how can we help you? So you give me a call and I say, okay, how can I help you? Where are you at in your business? Because we are entrepreneur led, right? We are business strategists. We know we have the expertise, but our expertise is nothing if it does not connect directly with the needs of the small business owner.
Yeah, and you said it, Yoyan. I mean, we serve, like I always say, anybody who's in a small business or wants to be an entrepreneur across Alberta, reach out to us because we can help. We have hundreds of years of combined experience on our team, 15 people who deal directly with entrepreneurs every day, day in, day out, and that team just keeps growing. And we're trying to serve a lot of Alberta. So we have people located in Brooks and Lethbridge and Red Deer and Calgary and Edmonton. We'll be expanding to Fort McMurray and Grand Prairie areas. So we can really reach out to a lot of people across the province in a lot of different ways. But what if an EDO sends a small business to us and they recommend that small business gives us a call, an email, a live chat? What does that look like? What happens for them?
Okay, so and it's different for everyone, but typically what would happen is we'll try to find out, first and foremost, how can I help you? What are you looking for? And like Maureen said, it usually starts with, I need a grant for my business, or what financial aid can I get for my business? And then we probe further to say, okay, how long have you been in business for? What are the current challenges that you see in your business right now? And what we're trying to really do is get to the root, because we find sometimes that the reasons why entrepreneurs come to us is not always, like Maureen said earlier, is not always the reason why, if that makes sense. The reason why they come to us is not the reason why. So we ask lots of probing questions, and even down to find the financial health of the business. How are you doing? How are you calculating your price? Are you pricing properly in the first place? Are you located in the right place for your business? Are you well connected in your community? Who is your target market, and how have you identified them? How are you reaching out to them? And we have this continuum that we walk customers through to just ensure that, a colleague of mine always says that running a business is an art, but it's also a science, right? So we walk them through the very foundations, just to be sure, first and foremost, that they have the foundations that they need. But all of this is always from a place of, what are you trying to get done? Because we find that sometimes clients are not ready to hear what they need to hear until they've resolved what they've come to you for. So it's always a fine balance between helping them get answers to what they've come to us with, and helping them with what they really, really need. So it's a mix, really. But we always start with, how can I help you? What are you trying to achieve? And then we move on from there. And what we find is, especially when we take it that way, it usually ends up being like an ongoing relationship. And there's nothing we love more than that at Business Link, like that ongoing, in some cases, coaching with predefined goals and milestones, right? Because we want to help you move from point A to point B as a business owner. So when you meet with us, after we get through that initial hump of what are you trying to get done and answering your initial questions, we then say, okay, what are your short-term goals? What do you want to achieve? And sometimes clients will say, hey, yeah, this is what I want to achieve in the next 6 months. And okay, how often do you want us to meet regularly? Okay, I'd like us to meet once a month, or once in 2 months, or once in two weeks, as the case may be. So we become almost like that accountability partner. And another reason why that is great is that we never claim to know everything we do. We don't know everything. But we are also very well connected within the small business ecosystem. We have a really huge and strong small business support ecosystem in Alberta, and we can triage customers to those organizations. But the more we know about you, the more we know what you need, and the more we can connect you with people. And even in some cases, the person who connect you back to might be the EDO. And this is another value we bring to the EDOs, to say, you could come to us with a particular problem that you have in your community, and we might not be the best people to help you. Right. So we very readily do those warm connections and intros to people outside of Business Link. For us, again, is entrepreneur-led, is whatever gets the entrepreneur moving from point A to point B.
Yeah, and I think the big part of that is the relationship, right? We know that entrepreneurs don't always just need that one bit of support. Sometimes they do. They just need a quick question asked, but for the most part, they need somebody to talk to. And I think even through, we've always known that, and through the last few months, we found that even more. Just that shoulder to cry on, that ear to listen to you has been really, really helpful.
Yeah.
So, that's the relationship. What else do we do? What are the other services we can provide?
So we have a secondary market research service as well. And what this is that we have access to different databases, and the databases change as needed. And through Business Link, your clients can actually get free access to secondary market research that costs quite a bit of money. So through us, you just place a request. We have an amazing market research team that, honestly, they go above and beyond, I have to say, in ensuring that your clients, and even you for your local community, have access to secondary market data that would be useful to you. Then we also have access to experts, and small businesses through Business Link can also get to speak with a lawyer or an accountant for very little. It's like $30 for 30 minutes, because we know that as small business owners, you should not be trying to do everything on your own. As EDOs, you cannot do everything for your small businesses. And we're always talking about realizing where your strengths lie and ensuring that you support yourself with the right kind of professionals. And so accountants and lawyers are the most popular, but we also have things like IP experts or HR experts or marketing experts that can just provide that professional advice to clients, because we are not professionals. And then we also have business plan templates, and we do business plan reviews. It's shocking how many businesses do not have business plans in any shape or form. But we try to get the client to a point where they actually document something, because it's important that you document something around your business. So when you do document, we can provide extra pair of eyes. We review it for you, make sure it's what you want it to be as much as possible. And we have a new tool coming up in December. It's the Interactive Business Plan Builder, and it's an amazing tool that right on our website, you don't have to download a template or try to scribble anything. Right on our website, you have a business plan writer that is very interactive with tips along the way. You can connect with a business strategist right there from that from the business plan writer. You can see examples, because I'm yet to find an entrepreneur who loves writing a business plan. It's like pulling a tooth or something. It's really difficult. But with this tool, it makes it easier for you to, and when you get stuck, right there on within the tool, you can reach out to us and we can help you figure things out. And then also in this year, we've developed 2 new programs that we're seeing really great success. One is the Peerpreneur, and what the Peerpreneur is a small cohort of small business owners who come together once a week for 1.5 hours to talk through things. And we identified this need because of COVID and the isolation that we saw in small businesses. And this in particular is amazing for rural entrepreneurs because you can be anywhere and you have this community of other small business owners who totally get how tough this is, supporting you, brainstorming with you, helping you along. And like Barbara said, it could just be talking and just unburdening. And in some cases, there's, I have this problem with my business, I have a marketing problem, and people come together to help you brainstorm. And we've seen some really amazing connections being made and solutions being preferred. And again, it just helps your rural entrepreneurs go beyond their borders, right, to connecting with people outside of their community. And then we also have the Resilient Recovery Coaching, where we are actually helping businesses think about disaster recovery and emergency planning, which is something that businesses don't necessarily think about, but with COVID, it's brought it to the fore. And we are giving businesses the opportunity to actually sit with business disaster recovery specialists and walk through the issues they're having in their business right now, but also planning for the future. So, and we are not strangers to disaster in Alberta, right? But it's interesting that even though we're familiar with disaster, we still have businesses are still not necessarily prepared. So we identified this as a need, and we are putting checklists in place, templates in place to help businesses prepare for disasters going into the future.
Yoan, can I just, I'm so sort of, while we're speaking about the support services that we have, I know you mentioned market research there, but I just want to speak about some like examples of where I've seen established businesses benefiting from that service that we have. Like we all know that good businesses do lots and lots of market research at that business planning stage. But what I've seen are rural businesses who are experiencing problems from COVID, but actually it's before then, and have experienced, problems relating to that, to oil price, and the need to find new markets, and our market research service has been able to provide them with, business lists in communities that they've not looked at before, we have access to those lists, but also some of that business and demographic information for communities that may actually be quite similar to their own, that they've not served in the past, but there's that market potential there. So the market research service for established businesses, like I know that we've all seen people take advantage of that and have great results. And also I was lucky enough to facilitate some of those peerpreneur sessions, and they worked really well when we had rural businesses online connecting with urban businesses. And we had one example, I had a young guy, he's maybe 20, 21, and he had a video production business in Edmonton. And just him talking about what's possible, what you can do to an artist, she's an industrial artist in Lac La Biche. Like you could just see those like thoughts starting, and the ball rolling of, oh, well, that's possible. Yeah, and it goes both ways. We know I'm not saying that urban has all the answers for rural. It certainly doesn't. But yeah, those connections starting, it was awesome. It was really good.
Yeah, it's been amazing, right? We've had so many great things happen. And I think the thing about market research that most people don't know is we're the only ones who really offer that. And the fact that it's free is pretty amazing. So it applies to lots of different businesses. So I'm going to have Yoyan run a few more services that we offer. I'm going to give her about 5 minutes to do that. And then we're going to throw over to Matt for some more interesting comments.
Yeah, and I'm almost done with my really long list here of stuff we do. I guess people don't realize, and sometimes even we don't realize how much we do at times. So also business education. We run business foundation series, customized webinars and in-person sessions. We have newsletters that go out like every other week, and blogs. We feature success stories, and with the success stories are so important because they give hope to other small businesses. They let you see that somebody else is doing this, I can do this as well. And it's just a really great opportunity. So not just for people reading it, but also for the small businesses that are featured. So rural businesses need exposure, and being featured as a success story on a Business Think blog is huge because it reaches a huge, a very huge audience, right? So yeah, and education is really important. We all have to keep learning. Like Maureen said, sometimes they're so busy working in the business that they don't realize the things they should be learning to work on the business. So we have various ways that small business owners can learn so that they can continue to grow their businesses. Then we have some specialized programs as well. One of my favorites is our Indigenous Business Development Services. So everything we do, but customized to the needs of Indigenous small businesses and Indigenous communities. So it's having that understanding and that sensitivity around it to better serve those communities. And the same for immigrants. We also have an immigrant entrepreneur program. And the amazing thing about these programs is that our Indigenous business strategists are Indigenous, like, so they get it, they come from the community. And with immigrants as well, our immigrant business strategists are immigrants. So it's people that understand I'm an immigrant, Matt is an immigrant, even though he doesn't look like one, he sounds like one. So we come from a place of understanding and a place of sensitivity because the needs are just very different when in those communities and in those spaces. And one of the programs that we actually just launched it in October, and we're very excited about it, is the Export Readiness Program. And what we're trying to do is to help small businesses in Alberta look beyond their borders. And the border does not necessarily have to be outside of Canada. The border, like Matt said, might be the next community. But how do you start expanding your audience? And this, I think, is really relevant to rural businesses because sometimes, depending on the size of your community, your market is very limited. So how do you grow your business outside of your immediate market? So we take you through this Export Readiness Program, working, again, one-on-one with you through certain steps to determine whether you're ready for export. And if you are ready for export, then we help you build out what you need so you can qualify for programs like maybe TAP and some of those bigger export programs with the Export Development Council. And just resources. Our website is a huge resource. We have COVID-19 supports. We have a new resources page with lots of checklists and information, resilience and recovery resources, because that's the phase we are in now. We are coming out of COVID. Everybody is fingers crossed there won't be a second wave. We're all very antsy. But what we're finding is that the businesses that will survive are the businesses that are resilient. So we have resources on our website that help you build that resilience, that help you ask yourself the hard questions that you need to ask yourself so your business is strong and is ready to face, whatever the next steps are. So yeah, that is my long list, Barbara. Woo.
And it is a lot. And I think, for all the EDOs out there and everybody who's attending the conference, you might be surprised by some of the things we do. And we're constantly evolving new programming. But the best thing we do is if you come to us and you have an idea and you're looking for some resources, we do customize some of our programs. We've got tons of webinars. We've got lots of great things. We deal with startup businesses and businesses that are running and businesses that are growing. So lots of opportunities. But we can't do it all. And we certainly don't do it alone. So I'm going to throw it over to Matt because we've partnered with a lot of organizations out there, and maybe talk a little bit about some of those organizations we partnered with in rural Alberta and how that works to make the small businesses be able to tap into so many more resources and really be more successful.
Perfect. Thank you, Barbara. Yeah. So my role really is lots to do with stakeholders and being involved in community outside of Business Link. Really, I'm based in Brooks, and I work with communities throughout Southern Alberta, rural Southern Alberta, and I have equivalents in Central Alberta, Maureen, in Calgary, and in Edmonton. So really, we are part of the entrepreneur support community. Absolutely, we're not doing these things alone. For the simple fact is, it's impossible. Like, we don't have the access to all those resources and all those tools that are out there, or in fact, the expertise. Like, when I am working with someone in the value added agriculture sector, like, I'm familiar, like, I know it exists, but really the idea of getting an agricultural product eventually to market in maybe a grocery store or exporting that product, I obviously don't have all that information. And so to be able to work with the new product specialists and new venture specialists at Alberta Ag and make that referral, it's great that we have that ecosystem available to us. But what we do have is knowledge of those people who can provide that extra help and that extra support. And so we know those organizations that are out there ready to help entrepreneurs. And in that work that I do, I work lots and lots with chambers in small rural communities and in larger rural cities like Lethbridge or Medicine Hat. Work lots with municipal economic development organizations, and trying to be as responsive to them and their needs in their community as possible. So, like, within the last week, I've written some custom training for a community not too far from Edmonton, but a rural community who wanted some support with their main streets businesses. It helping them get online, it helping them identify what their value proposition is, helping them become familiar with online platforms, but more importantly, helping them promote themselves online to their community. But that's something that we developed for them based on their community's specific needs. So yeah, work lots with rural economic development offices. Throughout COVID, before COVID, after COVID, I've always worked closely with the community futures offices. So in the last 5 weeks, I've done a startup series with Community Futures, Entrecore, and Medicine Hat, where we've gone through startup steps and 5 ways to finance your business, how to price your product, those, the fundamental foundation steps for starting your business. And it's great that it's organized by Community Futures because it's a ready-made referral. I'm having a conversation about financing your business and the variety of options that may be available to them. And in the next room, or in this case, in the next Zoom room, I've got a contact and I can refer them to, speak to Greg, the business analyst here in Medicine Hat. So that's awesome to be able to do. Also, in terms of training and working with those community futures offices, I know that I worked with Lakeland and with Strathmore Wild Rose there during COVID, developing how to get your business online, Shopify in an hour workshops that maybe they didn't have the expertise in-house, but we were able to put something together very, very quickly for them. So obviously I love working with community futures offices. And also I know that many of our team members work closely with Alberta women entrepreneurs. Like, we do the market research requests for them. I think Carrie presents, is it monthly for Alberta women entrepreneurs, focusing on market research. And I know that I do the same with some post-secondaries. Recently with University of Lethbridge and Medicine Hat College, I think I'm speaking to their students on Friday. So really, there is such a connection between us and the local or regional economic development partners. So I feel that Alberta entrepreneurs are well looked after for sure. And then at times the support is much more specialist. And so I mentioned about Alberta agriculture there and needing to refer to someone specialist in new ventures. But quite often, a very frequent referral I'll make is to a technology development advisor at Alberta Innovates, and just being able to make that connection, which as a busy rural economic development officer, you might not have the time to make that connection or in fact know quite who to refer to them at that specific organization. So for sure, we're there to help with that. And then some very, very specific things where we will have the expertise in-house to refer to maybe a professional partner that we've worked with. I'll use this example. It was a client information request that came through, and it was someone who wanted to open a franchise, and I'm pretty sure he was in Claire's home, but he just didn't really know where to start. You know, like, how does he do his due diligence? Who does he speak to? Like, he thought there's a great opportunity here, but just wasn't too sure of the next steps there. And I know we had a blog on our website about it, but I was able to make a direct referral to a franchise specialist broker who had presented for us, was clearly knew his stuff, and was able to set up a short meeting so that, you know, he's got that specialist to work with. So it's great when we're able to make those types of connections for people in the local community. So there are so many things that I could take you, but I just want to take maybe through an example of how this actually looks in real life. You know, when a referral is made to us, what are the steps that we go through and what it looks like. And so quite often a referral can be for something really quite simple and straightforward for us. So it might be, I need information on intellectual property protection in my business. You know, we have someone in our team who's just an expert on that. He knows, you know, like, he can provide that information very, very quickly. And so that's great in those situations. But sometimes the needs are a bit more complex, and we have to have that longer relationship with them. And so we can act as a sounding board, as you know, Pat's mentioned before, of having that one-to-one. But then it's referring back into the network. So, like, I'll use this example, and it's someone who was referred to me from a Community Futures office. She has a training business with a retail element to it. And so it's a sort of complex business, but she, at this time, she's been in business less than a year, just was not ready for a loan from Community Futures. They just didn't have she didn't have the equity necessarily within her business to support that. And so what I was able to do with her is have that one-to-one meeting, get her signed up to some of the workshops that we have, get her to help her support her working on her business plan, get her to speak to an accountant that we have. And eventually, obviously, the aim is that she is prepared then to apply for a loan at Community Futures or another financial institution, Futurepreneur, if it's a better fit for her, or whoever it may be. But really what we don't want to see are these people with, you know, they have a passion to be in business, they have a great idea, they want to be in their small rural community, but we don't want to stop them at any stage. So yeah, if Community Futures is not quite right for them, it was an easy referral to make because we have that relationship. So yeah, that's how we work with entrepreneurs in rural communities.
Fantastic, Matt. That's amazing. And as you can see, partnerships are so incredibly important. And, you know, especially in rural, we know Community Futures is right there willing to help and always looking for those business opportunities. And we want to prepare businesses to go down that path so they can get Community Futures and other support. And if they don't need that support, just be that lending and helping hand. So I guess the big thing is for you, as you know, in here and attending this session and everything, how do you actually connect with us? So we've got a few things going on that I'm going to update you on. So one of the things we have is we're going to get a form out to you guys that you can fill out, and we're going to send you some really cool digital marketing materials so that you can get all the information about Business Link up on your website, through your social media, your community newsletters, your newspapers, and we'll sign you up to our newsletters so that you're going to receive info with all of our new programs, events, things that you can share with your local chamber and the business community. So that is the first thing. Sign up for that form. We'll get that information to you, really readily packaged stuff you can send right out to your local community board, put on your website or your social media. So the other piece is you can access those one-on-one supports. So we're pretty much right now looking at having a representative in any region. So we have Matt down in southeastern Alberta. We have a representative through Lethbridge in southwest Alberta, Calgary in region, Maureen's up in Red Deer and dealing with all of central Alberta. Edmonton metro region is covered, Jasper to Lloydminster pretty much. And then also coming in February and March of next year, we'll have people on the ground in the Grand Prairie and Peace region and in regional municipality of Wood Buffalo. So you'll be able to connect with people one-on-one, and they'll be reaching out to you and really trying to connect with you. And the third thing is, set to launch sometime in Q1 of 2021. We're trying to put together a bit of a rural model, basically a package of business link services that you can access, that you can engage your businesses with. So lots of different ways to engage with us, but we'll definitely get that form out to you, and you can sign up and get that information, or you can contact any of us at any time. All of our smiling, lovely faces are on our website, so you can pick who you want to talk to and reach out. Thank you so much for being part of our conversation today. We look really forward to seeing you guys in person next year at the EDA conference, and we look forward to working with you and all of your community businesses. And thanks to Matt, Yoyan, and Maureen for being such great presenters.
Thanks, Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, everyone. What a great session. Thanks to our panelists, and once again to Western Economic Diversification Canada for their gracious and generous support of this session. We hope you found it enjoyable and had some good learnings, and we hope to see you at the next session. Thanks again, and enjoy the rest of the conference.